At every stage of a man's development, he's in conflict. He's in conflict with himself, with his woman, and with the world. Misunderstood masculine practice aggravates these conflicts rather than resolves them. These 9 points are going to help you understand what these conflicts are, how they got there, and how do we actually work with them in an intelligent way. The first pitfall of masculine practice I've named manhood must be earned. That manhood is something we have to earn. How many men on this call, somewhere inside of you believes that? Just raise your hand. I know I certainly did at the time. Right, hands are down. The thing about manhood being something that is earned is as old as time. All the traditions throughout the world, throughout history, had some form of initiation into manhood. Right? And some people today have recognized that the West has lost those kinds of rituals and initiations. Somewhere along the way, the church kind of took over that responsibility with communions and confirmations and the such. But as the Western world has kind of fallen out of religion, those initiations don't have the same impact, and we're yearning for like a cultural, communal, familiar initiation into something where we can feel important. And that's a huge reason why Burning Man has so many forms of different initiation there, because people are hungry to experience it again. And there's different men's groups and different tribes who are trying to resurrect this idea of initiation so we can feel that transition from childhood into adulthood. Right? So I want to say, first of all, the idea of initiation into manhood is a beautiful idea. It has very powerful impact on us socially, conventionally. And when we think about great men in movies, like if you guys have ever seen Gladiator or Braveheart, when you think about great men like Maximus or William Wallace and what it is to be a great man and those qualities that great men have, that's what it means to be a man, right? These are good stories for us to be told. Here's the thing about stories, though. Stories aren't the absolute truth. Stories are not awakening. And let me explain what I mean. It's well understood that what separates mankind from all the other animals on the planet is our capacity to tell stories. This is well documented just in the difference between us and chimps. Chimps can build empires of up to about 150. But human beings can organize themselves in a mass in the millions. How do they do that? It's because we have the capacity to tell stories. And we can choose to believe in the same story, right? The story of Islam, of Judaism, of Christianity, of Buddhism, the story of the United States, of the UK, of China. Stories, cultures get created through those stories, through telling these stories, sharing these stories. The story we were told, that I was told when I was young, is that my name is Justin. I'm from New York. I'm an American, right? I was born Christian, right? And those are stories that I were told, but my identity starts to take them on, and I begin to shape myself through those stories, through that lens. So there's the stories that culture is telling us that are most profoundly influencing our identity. But there are also those stories we are telling ourselves. Those may have even a greater impact. I'm not the man I wish I could be. That we castrate ourselves and our own manhood because of this internal dialogue and these stories that we tell ourselves. Such that our manhood becomes something based on story alone. The implications of what I'm sharing with you right now are critical through all of these 9 points. And really being able to wrap ourselves around this idea of, how do I practice rightly? What the hell are we really doing here? Are we all just telling ourselves and each other's stories and that's it? Or is there something more profound that has to take place? The story of Maximus is incredible. The story of William Wallace is incredible. Right? But even in those stories, Maximus dies in the Colosseum, never was actually free, right? William Wallace dies on the table, screaming freedom, right? But it was only in their death where there was a kind of completeness and freedom that took place for them in this lifetime. It was through their death, and we're going to get more into that a little later. So are we just doomed until we die? It certainly makes a great story. What we're here to do in this work is we're here to recognize a story for a story. We're here to be able to identify what is a story that we've been told and a story that we are telling ourselves. And our manhood has to be earned as one of those stories. If our manhood is something that must be earned, it means it is also something that can be taken away. If a group says, yes, you are one of us, you are men now, and then castrates, excommunicates, that can be devastating. If our manhood is built up in this identity we have about ourselves, being a good man, being in integrity, earning a certain amount of money, living a certain way, but then we get into a relationship with a partner who feels sexually frustrated and feels like we're not enough sexually in bed. So then our manhood is taken from us in that moment. We feel of less of a man because we're not performing at this level we thought a man should perform at. We feel emasculated. And if we can feel emasculated, that means our manhood is being taken from us in any one of those moments. It is fickle. Is that what manhood actually is? Is manhood only when we're feeling courageous and strong, and in moments where we feel vulnerable and weak, we lose our manhood? So I start off with this pitfall, because when we get into masculine practice, we have a tendency to obsess on this idea of earning this quality of manhood. That manhood has to look like something and feel like something. Otherwise, we are less than men. We are not men. And as I said, that story has usefulness when you want to mobilize the greatness in a man, motivate him. But when it comes to real liberation and self-love and deep understanding, it's not going to be found in those stories. So my invitation for you on this pitfall is, when the stories are gone, the stories you tell yourselves and the stories that you listen from out, what does it mean to be a man? What is a man? Is it something to be earned or something to lose? What does a man feel? What does a man do? Is what a man feels what you're feeling now? Is what a man does what you're doing now? And what we start to recognize is the conflict begins to unravel as we do this deep inner work. If your practice is aggravating conflict, I promise you it's the wrong direction. If your practice is resolving conflict, you're moving in the right direction.